Every conversation you had this week will leave something behind. Clarity or confusion, trust, distance, momentum or hesitation. And most of the time, we don't pause long enough to notice what it is we're creating. We focus on what to say. We focus on getting through whatever moment we're responding to. We're focusing on being quick. But what if your voice isn't just for responding to situations? What if it's shaping what happens next? Welcome back to Work Energy Lab Reflection Notes. Last week, we explored the idea that voice isn't something we find. It's something we cultivate. We talked about creating enough space to hear ourselves again. And today, we're taking that one step further. Because voice is more than speaking. It's more than finding the courage to say what's on our minds. Voice is one of the ways we create readiness. So choice begins quietly, before we speak. Is how that choice becomes visible in what we name, what we ask, how we listen, and how we carry ourselves into the moment. And because voice makes choice visible, it also carries consequence within ourselves, our relationships, and the places that we work. So by the end of this episode, you'll begin to see your voice not simply as a way to express yourself, but as one of the primary ways your choices enter the world for yourself and everyone around you. And if you stay with me to the end, we'll bring that idea into the moments that test us most. When pressure is high, time is short, and your voice can get quieter than you expected. We'll offer a simple recalibration you can use before your next conversation. Something small that can help you become more intentional about what your voice is creating. So the question isn't whether we're creating readiness. It's really not. The question is, what kind of readiness are we creating? And are we being intentional about it? We'll move through this in 4 parts. First, we'll notice the voice we use with ourselves. Then we'll look at the voice we bring into relationships. And after that, we'll consider the voice middle managers carry at work. And finally, we'll return to practice. How we keep cultivating voice so it's available in the moments that ask more of us. So, voice creates readiness within ourselves. Before our voice reaches another person, it reaches us. The way we interpret our experiences, the way we speak to ourselves after making a mistake. The questions we ask when something doesn't go as planned. I've experienced a lot of that in the last couple of days. All of these become part of our internal voice. If my inner voice tells me I'm incapable, I'll approach the next opportunity differently. If my inner voice remains just a tad bit curious, I'll probably see more possibilities, perhaps even a solution. The conversations we have with ourselves quietly prepare us for the conversations that we'll eventually have with others, especially if we're helping others navigate through difficult things. Voice begins long before words. It begins in what we give our attention and how we reflect on our experiences in our lives and our choices, and in the stories we choose to believe. And those stories matter because they shape our choices. They influence what we try and what we avoid, what we name and what we believe is possible next. For example, after a mistake, one might say, "I always do this," and stop. Another voice might say, that didn't go the way I hoped. What can I learn before I try again? Both voices respond to the same moment, but each one is expressing a different choice about what the moment means and what might be possible next. Our voice is already preparing us for the next step. The question is whether it's preparing us with fear or with readiness. Once we begin noticing the voice we use with ourselves, we can start noticing what is possible with other people. So voice creates readiness in relationships. Relationships are built one conversation at a time, one connection at a time. Not every conversation is memorable, but they leave something behind. There's trust, distance, curiosity, defensiveness, connection, confusion, anger. There's a lot of stuff. As we talked about last week, voice isn't simply saying everything we think or feel. It's how our choices show up in relationships. One voice might express the choice to say, help me understand what you're seeing, instead of, that's not what I meant. One voice carries us toward defense, and the other carries us toward understanding. Sometimes that looks like asking a question. And then other times it looks like listening a little longer. Sometimes it looks like admitting that you were wrong or that you don't have all the answers. So voice creates readiness because it prepares relationships for whatever comes next. And for many of us, those relationship patterns show up more clearly at work. That's where we spend a lot of time and a lot of effort, especially when we are helping other people make sense of change, uncertainty, and demand. So, voice creates readiness at work. This is where I think many middle managers underestimate the influence they already have. The middle manager often stands in the middle of 2, 3, 4 circular forms of pressure. There's pressure moving down from strategy, goals, timelines, decisions, and then there is pressure moving up from questions, concern, fatigue, and lived experience. So they are asked to translate in both directions, to help teams understand what is changing and to help leaders understand what those changes feel like on the ground. That is not an easy place to stand. And part of what I hope this podcast can do is make that path a little easier to walk, provide more resources to gather, because middle manager's voice often becomes most practical in translation. You're translating down by helping people understand what is known, what is changing, and what it means for their day-to-day. You translate up by naming what people are experiencing, where there's confusion and anger, and what support may be needed to help. And you translate across by helping peers and partners stay connected instead of working from assumptions. In each direction, your voice can create readiness. Not because you have every answer, but because you help people orient to what is real, what matters, and what comes next. That is where choice lives for many middle managers. You do not make every choice and decision, timeline, or constraint. That context is real. But you do choose how to carry the message, how to humanize it, how to clarify it, and how to help people take the next honest step. For example, when a team hears about a decision they did not choose, the middle manager still has choices. and how that message is expressed. They can repeat it as if people should simply accept it, or they can say, here is what has been decided. Here's what's still a little unclear, and here is what I want to understand from you as we move through it. The decision may not change, but the way it is carried can change the room and bring people into the conversation. You may not write the strategy, create every policy, or make every organizational decision, but every day you help people understand what those decisions mean. You translate, clarify, answer questions, acknowledge uncertainty, and help people move from confusion toward understanding towards action. That isn't simply communication. It's creating readiness. A policy doesn't prepare people. A conversation does. A slide deck does not build trust. That relationship does. Information matters, but meaning is created between people. That's where voice becomes so important. It isn't measured by ownership of the message. It's revealed in how we carry it, whether that's with integrity, with clarity, with compassion. If voice creates readiness within us, between us, and around us, the next question is how we keep it available, especially when the moment asks more from us than we expected. I don't think it's something we accomplish once. It is a lifelong practice. One, our voice changes. We cultivate voice through curiosity, by noticing what continues to matter to us and what maybe has shifted. We cultivate voice through reflection, by making meaning from our experiences and those of others. We cultivate voice through creation. Every time we write, build, teach, cook, garden, coach, lead, create something that reflects who we are, our voice becomes a little clearer. And we cultivate that by nourishing ourselves before demand with those things that bring us joy, by creating enough room to think, enough to notice, and to choose instead of simply reacting. Because the more space we create before the moment, the more choice we have inside the moment. And that is what this practice, I hope, has been building toward. A voice that helps us steady ourselves, strengthen our relationships, and meet our work with more intention. So, before we finish today, I'd like to invite you into one small pause. This pause is not separate from the rest of the reflection. It is the practice underneath it. Before we can use our voice with more intention, we often need a moment to return to ourselves. So if you are driving, simply listen. Otherwise, allow your shoulders to soften. It's one of my favorite things. Take a slow breath in through your nose. Gently breathe out. Again, breathing in. No need to count. Just breathe and then breathe out. One more slow breath. Now bring to mind one conversation you'll have this week. Before thinking about what you'll say, ask yourself a different question. What do I hope this conversation creates? Am I going for more clarity, more trust, or more curiosity, more understanding? What more readiness, more compassion? Take one final breath. And as you exhale, remember, your voice is already creating something. May it create the readiness you hope to leave behind. So this week, instead of asking, what should I say? Try instead thinking about what you are creating with your voice. Because every word, every question, every act of listening helps prepare someone, including ourselves, for what comes next. So, now we come back to the promise from the beginning. What do we do when the conversation is not calm, spacious, or easy? Before your next difficult conversation, assuming you have created some space beforehand, before you hit send on that email, pause. Take one slow breath here. Then quietly start asking your questions. What am I creating right now? That question does not give us control over everything, but it can help us remember the choices we still have, the tone we use, the question we ask, the pace we set, and the kind of presence we bring and we want to bring. It might sound like expressing one choice instead of another. We have to get through this, or let's name what we know, what we need, and what our next honest step can be. The facts may not change, but the readiness in the room can. Am I creating clarity or confusion? So that breath is one of my staples because it creates space no matter the circumstances. Readiness or resistance you begin with one intentional breath. And it doesn't change every conversation. It's not magic. Well, it kind of is. It's life-giving after all. But it can change the way you enter into the moment. And sometimes that's where readiness begins. So when your voice feels quiet, there are moments when pressure rises, attention narrows, and our voice begins to quiet. Not because we don't care, but because something in us feels uncertain or afraid. If you notice that happening, pause. Again, pause. Take a slow breath. Gently ask yourself, what am I protecting right now? That question is not meant to judge. To judge the silence. It is meant to help you understand it. Is it impacting my sense of belonging? Is it speaking to my fear of being wrong? And then ask a second question. What matters enough to say, even if it's imperfect? Your voice doesn't need to be perfect to be meaningful. Every word does not have to be pristine. Sometimes readiness begins with a small sentence. I'm not sure, but I'd like to share a thought. I may be missing something, but here's what I'm noticing. I have a question. Even a quiet voice can create clarity. Even a hesitant voice can create movement. So honor that in the moment. So in demand moments, when pressure is high and there isn't much time to reflect, your voice still matters because people are listening for steadiness, clarity, and a way forward. Here are a few examples, simple ways to stay grounded. Name what's clear. Even if everything isn't clear, say what it is. This is what we know right now. Acknowledge what's uncertain. You don't need all the answers to create trust. This part is still evolving. Ask one grounding question. What do we need most right now? What would help us move forward? Slow your pace, even slightly. A steady voice creates steadiness in others. These aren't perfect responses. Nothing I have here is perfect and nothing will suit every moment. There's small ways to stay connected to your voice when demand is high. So your presence creates steadiness in yourself, trust in your relationships, and readiness in the work ahead. That may be the deeper work of voice, not simply to say something, but to express what we are choosing to help create. So when we talk about voice, choice, and consequence, this is what we mean. Choice often begins before we speak, but voice is one of the primary ways that choice enters the world. It shows up in the way we name, what we withhold, what we ask, how we listen, and how we carefully carry what is true. Voice does not control every outcome. It does not erase pressure, hierarchy, history, or other people's responses. But it does have consequences, and it can shape what feels possible next. In ourselves, voice may express the choice of compassion instead of criticism. In our relationships, it may express curiosity instead of defense. And at work, especially for middle managers, it may express clarity, honesty, and steadiness in the space between decisions and the people who have to live them. So, as this reflection series continues, I'm also beginning something new. Work Energy Lab Conversations. These conversations will bring more voices into the lab as we explore the real experiences, practical questions, and human dynamics that shape how we work, lead, and communicate. We'll begin with conversation 1, where we'll explore communication during change with a communication expert. Together, we'll look at what helps people make sense of change, what often gets missed, and when messages move quickly, how leaders and middle managers can communicate with more clarity and care in helping people understand what comes next. Thank you for spending these moments with me. Until next time, take care of yourself.